All right, welcome back. Now, let's turn our attention to something else. June 12th. In a few days' time, we'll be celebrating June 12th in this country as officially Nigeria's Democracy Day. Now, June 12th, 1993 has now become, I should say, a very significant part of Nigeria's history. As it is on every election day, Nigerians had filed out en masse to elect their preferred candidate for president between Moshood MKO Abiola of the Social Democratic Party and Bashir Tofa of the National Republican Convention. At the end of the poll, Abiola emerged victorious, but he still never got to be president before his death in 1998. And that's because the result of the election, widely considered to be Nigeria's most transparent and freest, was annulled by then military head of state General Ibrahim Babangida. Now, after years of clamoring by pro-democracy activists for the recognition and designation of June 12 as Nigeria's Democracy Day, on June 6, 2018, the Nigerian government directed that effective from 2019, Democracy Day will no longer be marked on May 29th, but June the 12th, in honor of the late MKO Abiola. A posthumous award was also conferred on him and his running mate Babagana Kingibe as the winner of the election and Grand Commander of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, GCFR. Of course, that is an award reserved for the position of the president. And now, in a few days from now, the country will be marking the maiden June 12 Democracy Day. The government also refrained from holding an elaborate ceremony on May 29th, saving all the pomp and pageantry for the new set date. Of course, as you would remember, May 29th was when President Buhari was sworn in for his second term. Now, although some activities are asking for more, some activists, I should say, are asking for more to be done, this is one huge step that the government has taken. Joining me now to talk more about all of this is Abdul Mumini Abiola, actually, who is the son of MKO Abiola. And I also have Ayodele Adewale, a former chairman of Amaward of a local government area in Lagos, and also one of the heroes in the struggle for June 12. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the program. Let me start with you, Abdul. Just tell me how you feel that for the first time since that historic event back in 1993 and after your father's death in 1998, that Nigeria would officially be celebrating Democracy Day. And of course, this is coming after the National Assembly has designated that day as Nigeria's Democracy Day and also a national public holiday.
Well, thank you for having me, Deji. It's actually it's a welcome development for me, the family, and the millions of Nigerians who participated in the 1993 June 12 elections. I think it's important that we understand that, yes, my mother and my father did pay the supreme price, but so did hundreds of other Nigerian citizens who came out to vote. Some didn't go back home.
Absolutely.
Through that whole process. So it's good that we're actually coming to terms with our past and trying to, make amends, or trying to reconcile our past with our future. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. I'm totally pleased. I'd like to thank Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari, the Senate, the National Assembly, the APC family, and also the opposition. I'd like to thank everybody who participated. And I think after the president had announced that it was more of a unanimous decision in the National Assembly. So both the opposition and the ruling party actually worked hand in hand to make this come to fruition. I think it's a good thing when our leaders, lead party lines and bipartisanly decide to move the country in a common direction. And I pray that this starts the conversation of bigger and better things to happen in our policy and our society.
Ayo, you were one of those who campaigned seriously for June 12 to be recognized as Nigeria's Democracy Day. Most of you guys were in the trenches. Now that has come to fruition. You must be happy about this.
Thank you for having me. Basically, yes, we are happy. Particularly that we live to see the day. We are also very thankful to the administration of President Buhari and the national leader of the APC, Aswade Bola Tinubu, who kept on insisting that that day be recognized as the People's Democracy Day. Not only that, that the national honor in the land reserved for president is also conferred on Chief MKO Abiola. This is an affirmation that Chief MKO Abiola did win that election. And of course, we also hope and pray that other entitlements that are bestowed on the office of the president, and the president is also transferred to Chief MKO Abiola. But most importantly, what Abiola stood for and what he negotiated with the progressive and the Nigerian people as contained in the SDP programs, which became the June 12 Charter, and that is to eradicate poverty, to provide infrastructure, to make sure that no Nigerian go to bed hungry, to also make sure that corruption is taken away from our system. I'm very happy that President Buhari is committed towards doing this, especially his war against corruption, and as seen in the provision of infrastructure in the last 4 years compared to what had happened in the last 16 years. So we can say he's walking towards that light. But we will want that the June 12 Charter, the program of June 12, becomes the program of the ruling party and become the program of this present administration.
For you, Abdul, after Democracy Day, June 12, what next would you want to see?
Well, like the conversation, I think...
is it that with the recognition and, the confirmation of June 12 officially recognized as Nigeria's Democracy Day, is it for you, is it all that you would want to see? And
I think the former chairman Ahmad Duffy just actually mentioned it. The recognition of the day, it's more of just putting credence or just acknowledging the sacrifice that certain groups of people made in fostering or giving birth to our democracy, or the democracy that we serve. It's a good, like I said, it's a good intervention. But now the conversation does start. What was June 12? What was my father's manifesto? What was his agenda for the people? These are the questions that we want to be that are going to be asked in future June 12s to come. So when people ask, "Oh, you have a day as a celebration," and I go, "No, it's a day to reflect. Where are we as a union? Where are we in democracy? What do we intend to do? How do we intend to foster? A stronger union?" I think it's important that we start to have this conversation, and I think that's what Muhammadu Buhari did. I think yesterday they have actually started the June 12 celebration proper in Abuja, and the SGF, Boss Mustafa, actually, he said that the president's intention is to foster, is to rekindle the hope 1993 spirit in the populace, and that is, to me, when I heard that is inspiring. To know that the president loves the country so much that he wants people to be engaged. And the only way democracy would work in our society with 200 million people is if people do participate. So I think those that truncated our democracy in 1993 were trying to silence the masses. But what Buhari or President Muhammadu Buhari has been able to do is he's been able to give the people back their voice. And
so you would say for you, your family has been able to achieve some kind of closure on this with the action taken by the government.
Yeah, it vindicates their sacrifice, and it's one thing is to fight and die for something, and that to be and then your sacrifice is recognized. It's something, and then not to mention that in recognizing his sacrifice, you've also recognized hundreds, millions of other people who actually lost something. Some people lost limbs, some lost brothers, some lost sisters, some lost mothers. And they probably thought, "Oh, this day will never come." It's closure, in a sense, but it also does create open up a bunch of new questions. Is this democracy working for us? How do we make this work, or how do we get back to that 1993 spirit? And the 1993 spirit wasn't an Abiola spirit; it was a Nigerian spirit that were yearning for a change, and I think we're still yearning for that same change. And now with this, I'm hoping that like bipartisan lines. I'm hoping that we're able to come together to move the country forward. There's so many flashpoints that we need to address.
Absolutely, absolutely, no doubt. And for some of you in civil society now, where does it go from here for you? Because it would appear, well, what you've been clamoring for has now been, sort of achieved. So, what do you expect civil society to do going forward?
Well, let me just say a chapter of the book of freedom has just been concluded, and that is the affirmation that Chief MKO won the election.
So we'll have to move to the next chapter.
The next chapter now, just like the Black African struggle, starting from slavery. Slavery was abolished. The next thing was for the black man to have meaning. In several diversities, they were not allowed to vote. They were not given equal participation in government and society building. The struggle continued, and all of that, till the point in America when they had a black president. That doesn't mean that the struggle has been concluded. Now, the next chapter is that we make June 12 a People's Day, a day where government will sit down and listen to the people. People in different diversities of Nigeria, different corners of Nigeria, will have to organize programs in accordance to their own peculiarities. Now, have discussion, bring up submission from those discussions and submit to the government as a resolution. If some certain sundry matters have not been achieved as development in their own various corners. And we will also expect that the press will also partner with the civil society to amplify all of this discourse and all of that, where government will either send representatives to many of the programs that will be organized by civil society or nationality groupings and just become participants in such programs and take away whatever that has been said and look at it, reflect at it, and see how they can marry it into their programs, and if they have achieved it, and see how they can also amplify it using the media as a platform.
Funny enough, this Democracy Day celebration that would happen, of course, would not be like what you expect, because certainly it's not going to be a situation where the government would listen to the people, because of course the president is expected to give like his inaugural speech on that day, so it would be a situation where you would have the president talking to Nigerians, unfolding his program to Nigerians now, what he intends to do in the next 4 years. But Abdul, it's we've had this conversation before, and it will continue to come up. You look at what your father stood for. You look at his struggle and all of that, and what he was not able to achieve. He wasn't able to actually get the presidency and all of that. You look at all of this. Don't these things actually spur you to go into politics, and try to do, do possibly, maybe not aspire for the presidency, but at least at whatever level to try to do something, and just like your father did.
Okay, well, first of all, I always believed that my father had an agenda and he wanted to do something, and I think what he wanted to do was just better the lot of the common people, just basic. You don't really have like some lofty idea or something. He just wanted to make sure that the common man had food on his table. Common man was able to do whatever. I'll tell you that we don't all have the same dreams. Some of us want to go to London. Some people just want to have a nice roof over their heads. He was gonna give every Nigerian the dream that they wanted. Well, going on to my political ambition. First things first, I don't really necessarily believe that you need to have a role to be a leader or to participate. So I'm not necessarily looking for any role per se. Even if I'm not a minister or a senator, I'll still make sure I work to build our democracy and to give back to my people. That not being said, based on the circumstances of my family, my father's sacrifice, my father's life, and my mom, it's only spurs me to want to be part of it. And the reason it wants me, I want to be part of it.
Your mom too was ingrained in the struggle.
Yeah, Elijah Kudura, she was killed, and we just did her anniversary. But it's because they stood for something. So they were fighting for something. Yeah, so they were lost. I intend to continue that struggle. The struggle to make sure Nigeria is united. The struggle to help our people in terms of education, because my father believed that was the surest way out of poverty. And in any way possible. For like, I know that for the past 8 years I was in Osun State working with the former governor of Osun State, which is the state of Osun, Ogbeni Welfare, and I've learned a lot from him. And in any way, and based on what the APC led government has been able to do for my father, it only spurs me more to even work more for the party and see if there's any way I can support or just help them find achieve some of their agendas. And I think that is what it means to be a Nigerian. It's participating. Not feeling like, oh, since they didn't call my name, then I'm not. They don't want me there. No, even if they don't call your name. Like I always give an example. The governor of Lagos State. When you hear his story and you hear about, oh, he did this, he was here. Nobody knew his name before.
Absolutely.
He came out. So people, they're actually heroes who are working in the engine room, and like this your production, Deji 360. You get the face, but there's so many people in the background who are making the work. So they're actually the real heroes. So I don't know. I believe that all down the line, from the leader all the way to the people who follow them, we all have one voice. And I think as long as we're all working towards the same agenda, then alhamdulillah.
All right, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, let's look at how June 12 can actually be used to unify this country, because the country is so much divided at the moment. We'll take a short break, and we'll be right back. On Deji 360, we don't just ask the questions. What is wrong with amending the Constitution the way the National Assembly members have been doing it? We seek answers.
Constitution is constituent. Our problem is not lack of laws. Our problem is lack of the willpower to implement our laws.
Answers that provide clarity.
While we negotiate, we should try to make it a point that the girls must be complete.
The clarity you need to make informed judgment so that you can make the right decision and take action. People are saying it is you politicians that are responsible for this, that you are the reason why this is happening.
All these dollars that call themselves governors in this country?
I wish we had people like Tony at the National Assembly.
God forbid that I go to join that standard.
Deji 360, providing clarity to issues. All right, welcome back. I still have Ayodele Adewale, a former chairman of Amur Dolphin Local Government, here with me, and Abdulmomini Abiola, son of MKO Abiola. Let me ask you, you look at the country today, whether we like it or not, seriously divided. Divided, along ethnic lines, religious lines, and what have you. How can we use June 12 now to unify this country, especially when you consider the fact that, look, this was an election that everyone in this country today talks about, that actually united the country. A Muslim ticket, people didn't mind. They voted for them overwhelmingly, irrespective of where the Abiola came from and all of that. How can we use June 12 now to begin to unify this country?
Well, first and foremost, we must tell the story of June 12 in our schools, starting from primary school to secondary and of course university. I remember that as a young people in primary school, we were taught about Mongo Park, taught about various national leaders and all. But the narrative is different now. You hardly see history being taught in primary school, and if the histories are taught, they're not teaching the actual history that occurred. Because if we don't know where we've come from, it'll be difficult to know where we're going to. Because when you tell these stories to young ones, it's not like the folktale story of the tortoise and what have you. They will tell you that the tortoise stole porridge, tortoise did this, tortoise did that. At the end of the day, this is what happened to the tortoise. And they'll now tell you that, look, do you want to go by the way of the tortoise or you want to go by the way of the lion? So stories must be told to our children because they are going to be leaders of tomorrow. And for those who are already here, these stories must also be told. And we need to tell them how President Abiola was able to galvanize support from across the corners of Nigeria. Abiola won Bashir Tofa in his own ward, in his own state, among his own native people. How did he do it? He did it out of love. Abiola was a very charitable man, even before he thought he was going to become president or run for presidency and all of that. Abiola was everywhere. Abiola was in sport, he was in education, he was in the religion. Most people did not even know that Abiola was a Muslim. They just saw him as a Christian because he could quote the Bible. He was working very freely with the Christians and of course with the traditional people. Abiola still remained the only Nigerian that had the highest number of traditional chieftaincy title in this country and of course in Africa. So everybody wanted him. So the more we let our people know all of these values, the more we let them know the essence for what he stood for and for what that process stood for, because hunger knows no tribe. Poverty knows no boundaries. You understand? Everybody wants comfort. And as much as we want that, we must be ready to tolerate each other and understand that we must build on our various diversity of strength. In the south, in Lagos, we're strong in terms of natural resources that is linked to the aquatic splendor that we have. When you go to north, we have more of mineral resources, agriculture and what have you. You go to the east, you have more of agriculture industrialization. You understand, we are so blessed. But how can we pull all this strength together and bring back the sleeping giant to take his place in Africa and the world?
Atul, you look at what is going on in the country today, the kind of division we have, and especially you look at the 2015, not 2015 now, the last general election we had, 2019 general election. Look, the kind of division we had before that election and even after. And then you go back to June 12th and you look at what the situation was then. How do you feel?
Well, first of all, like I always think that democracy is it's not like a perfect, it's not like a magic bullet, or it's not like a perfect pill. It takes its time and it grows and it morphs from one shape to the other. And that being said, I know that let's start from when we started democracy, 1999. You know, we were just hoping that okay, we're done with this military regime, let's get started. So Obasanjo takes the reign, 2007. Then we have Yar'Adua. There's a democratic change. So we're growing, right? The democracy is growing. Then you know, we had a disaster in the nation, never happened before, where the city president was no more. You know, we created some kind of vacuum, but we got through that with Jonathan. And when President Goodluck Jonathan left in 2015, which was the first change between parties, which was smooth, you know, and then Buhari comes in, and then 2019 comes about, and the kind of monies that we were used to seeing in our policy seem to be less, you know, as forthcoming. You know, then we know that during elections, some people were making money for the next 4 years. But it seemed now that things were, you know, were not going to be played. It wasn't going to be business as usual. Yeah. I believe it's going to take some more time, but we'll still continue to progress. The most important thing is we understand that Nigeria is bigger than any one person, and it belongs to all of us. So it's it will behoove our leaders and the followers to come out, participate, and then also hold the leaders accountable when things are not going right. But for me, I believe that if we're looking at our democracy compared to other democracies, then we should be very careful who we choose to just oppose Nigeria with. Some of these democracies that we try to judge are well over 200 years old. Some of them are even well over 100 years old. We're just getting there. And also based on the, you know, we have our own little traditions that we have to also try to merge with the choice of governance system we pick. So I think these are some of the things that we have to work on. But the general idea would be I think my the former chairman also mentioned it, that poverty does not know ethnic group. It doesn't know boundaries. So once we start to address, like if we were to do universal healthcare, you know, you've taken that away from the people. Then you say, okay, school for your students, or school free. You've taken that away, and then you now say, okay, your minimum wage is 50,000, but the government is already taking care of certain things. So even in America, you had a minimum wage people were making, and you still had, but because certain things were already taken care of, and you could now balance out the rest. So I think these are kind of steps that Buhari and the Mr. President Buhari and his Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo, I'm sure will start thinking about. They've done a lot already. The food feeding scheme has encouraged more students to come to school, which is a good thing. We have the Empower program from the Vice President's program. And not to mention this money to the less...
the trader money.
Not only the trader money, there's trader money, and then there's one that they give to...
Yes, conditional cash transfer.
Yeah, to people who are less...
yes, the poorest of the poor.
I believe that some of these initiatives might just be short-term, but it's a palliative, but I know that there are more that are going to come about. But with these things, what we want to do is we take up what they've given us, and we now encourage them to do more.
All right, gentlemen, I think we just have to leave it there. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
Well,
thank you very much for your
time.
time.
Before we go, I just want to say that we thank the President for paying the outstanding liabilities of the Biafran soldiers.
Yeah,
we also thank him for paying that of the Nigerian Airways staff. We will also encourage him to pay reparation and compensation to the Abiola family. The government of Abacha, Babangida, took away the companies. They destroyed the companies like Berek, like Concord, like Wonderloof, like Volkswagen, the Abdullah Bookshop, the farms, and so many. They were all destroyed. If these properties were to be, the proceeds would take care of the family. So we implore the Buhari administration, President Buhari administration, to please look into that direction. And of course, all of the accounted for heroes of democracy, especially during the June 12 episode, that were killed, if you can trace their families, compensation should be paid to the families. And especially the children of Kudirat Abiola. Of course, you know what it means. You're a parent. For somebody to take the mother and the father away, killed, and the children are left on their own. Thank God for Benny Raouf Arebeshola and Asiwaju that stood into that gap. But it cannot be like your own biological parent providing for you. So if the government can help pay reparation to the Abiola family, get consultants to go and value the loss and come up with a sum to give back to the family in trust. And of course, the accounted people who died during that struggle and those who are living, who lost limbs, lost their entitlement. That will go a long way for this administration.
As you guys in the civil society would say, that's another challenge.
It's another chapter.
Another chapter. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the program. Well, that's it on the program. If you want to watch it again, it's very simple. You can go to our website, tv360nigeria.com. You'll see this program and lots more there. You can also contribute to the program by following us on our various social handles. So thank you very much for watching. I'm Deji Badimasi. We'll see you next time.